Namaste, friends. So, topic for today's essay perspectives is power of vested interest is vastly exaggerated compared to gradual encroachment of ideas. Without much delay, let's move on. Unlike every other video, friends, this time I have different personal request to make. So, the third edition of my book, A Practical Approach to Ethics, Integrity, and Aptitude for Civil Services Examination, is under print, and it is likely to hit market in just 3-4 days, that is on Tuesday or Wednesday. So you can buy the book on Flipkart and or Amazon. So the new edition includes some solved questions from part A of the question paper of previous year, and also a separate section on moral thinkers, and also some anecdotes of some civil servants has been newly added. So hope it benefits readers. As I suggest you always, friends, before we start, we have to conceptualize the essay as being made of various components and subcomponents. So this essay we will introduce first, then we will elaborate on the essence of the topic, then we would discuss the source of power of vested interests. From where would these vested interests derive their power so that they become very powerful? And then we would discuss the factors that strengthen the ideas, then how ideas overpower vested interest, then we would do some analysis, then we would discuss as to how to cultivate noble ideas, and then we would conclude. Friends, I feel the best way to start this essay is by referring to the famous speech of Macaulay in the British Parliament on Indian education. The crux of Macaulay's speech was that there was no beggar, there was no thief in India, and everybody was educated, everybody was, had the habit of forward thinking. So the only way in which British could rule such a spiritually advanced country like India was to hit at India's strength, which is its spirituality and heritage, and to make Indians feel that all that is foreign is good, all that is native is bad. So it was with this notion that English education system was designed and introduced in India. Then friends, now you may wonder, how does this Macaulay speech has relevance to our topic? See friends, the British had two options to overtake India, to take over India. The first option was, you just go and wage an all-out open war and then try to conquer as much land as possible, or as many principalities as possible, whatever. But however, they had a better way, that was to slowly spread the idea that British culture, Western culture was superior to Indian culture. So this slow spreading of idea of superiority of the West and inferiority of the native culture, customs, traditions, ways of life, etc., psychologically weakened the Indians to fight against the British. So it became very easy for the British to rule India. Thus, British chose spreading of ideas over and above display of power in order to conquer conquer India. So thus, this is the best example as to how the ideas become more powerful than the physical force in getting anything done. So this essay seeks to explore whether the power of vested interests is simply an exaggeration, or is it real in front of the power of an idea, spread of an idea. Okay friends, I have emphasized in most of my videos that in philosophical topics it becomes extremely important for us to elaborate on the essence of the topic. That is where you will make examiner clear that you have total clarity of the essence of the topic and also its ethical and moral underpinnings. So here, as always, the first thing that you should focus is meaning of vested interest. What is vested interest, friends? Vested interest actually means involving in a task, involving in a mission, expecting that such involvement would benefit the person financially or concretely, if I may say so. That means a person raises voice against something. A person involves in a legal battle against something if he is of the opinion that the outcome of such a legal battle or outcome of that movement would directly, financially, or concretely help that individual. To illustrate, all the zamindars soon after independence were up in arms against the land reforms that was being introduced by the government. Why were they involved in that activity? Because they wanted to scuttle land reforms. This activity of scuttling land reforms would directly help them, would financially help them, would concretely help them. Correct. If the land reforms were to be implemented, they would lose major chunk of the land that was under their control, and that would lead to financial loss to them. So thus the interest of the zamindars in scuttling land reforms constitutes the vested interest. So hope I am clear, friends. This is the concept of vested interest. Then what is the idea? I mean, what is the meaning of idea? Idea is basically a thought, it's a notion, it's a conception, right? See, there are so many ideas that are floated by many thinkers, many reformers, everyone, right? Equality is an idea, liberty is an idea, fraternity is an idea, democracy is an idea. See, even equitable distribution of wealth is an idea. So, by taking leaf out of the previous example of zamindars, what was the reason for land reforms at the first place? The reason for land reforms is the idea that every individual has the right to equitable resources. Correct. So if a person is holding disproportionate amount of resources and cornering a major chunk of outcomes of that resource, then he is subduing equality, he is subduing the equitability, and he is not respecting the notion of hard work. Correct. So thus the idea that tiller is the owner of the land, the idea that everybody should have equal or equitable access to the land or any other resource is the premise on which land reforms was conceptualized or implemented, whatever. So thus this is idea. Idea is a thought, equality is an idea. What is, Karl Marx said that laborers are the real owners. That's an idea. Until then nobody thought like that. The moment Karl Marx said like that, everybody started thinking, yes, we are also owners, we are not just workers. So that idea would create public opinion. Hope I'm very clear and crisp now. So basically what is an idea? Idea is a thought, notion, or a conception, okay, about something. And so many times, no, the second thing is, we have to, after we have explained vested interest and the meaning of idea, we have to bring the relationship between both. Okay, now it is important to understand, friends. Wow. See, what is the relationship between vested interest and idea? See, mostly, friends, vested interest would try to, in most of the cases, would try to safeguard the status quo, most of the times, if not always. And these ideas are antithesis to the status quo. And under capitalistic society, the profit was being cornered by owners. Correct. That was the status quo. That was the existential fact. Then because of that, this idea of workers being owners came, which was antithesis to the idea of capitalism. So thus the rise of socialism was an idea, capitalism was an existential thing in which the vested interests of capitalists or rich people was involved. Correct. So thus because of this, mostly this vested interests and ideas are always antithesis to each other, or always at loggerheads. This idea seeks to hit at the root of the existential factor. So that's how there is a relationship between vested interest as well as idea. So I would, in other words, I would say an idea is an agent of change and the vested interest is a resistance to change. Basically, the whole topic is about whether ideas which are the agent of change have the potential to win over the resistance to the change offered by the vested interests. This is the essence of the topic. So then friends, also we can very well say that mostly vested interests are always physical, it is in physical terms, while ideas are mostly intellectual and emotional. Once this fight between the vested interest and ideas end and ideas overpower vested interest, then this ideas which are in the intellectual form would get converted into physical form, which is reality. Okay friends, hope I am very clear, I believe. Okay friends, now once we have discussed the essence of the topic, now it is high time we discuss the source of power of vested interest. Why? See, the topic says power of vested interest is vastly exaggerated compared to the gradual encroachment of ideas. So before we discuss the power of ideas, first we have to discuss why at the first place the power of vested interest appears to get exaggerated. Correct. So that means what are the sources from which this vested interest derive power? The first thing is access to power corridors. See, mostly we have seen in Indian society all the top political positions are mostly held by powerful castes. Correct. So most of the political leaders, most of the ministers, I mean, if not for the reservation provided, are mostly from the upper class. Correct. Who constitute a vested interest. So thus, when they have access to power corridor, then it is very likely, it's very difficult to unseat them. Then then it becomes very easy for me to use or twist the machinery of governance to serve their own self-vested interest while suppressing new ideas or suppressing the demand for change. Correct. Even take the example of African countries that went for Jasmine Revolution. Most of them, like whether it is Libya or Egypt or it is Tunisia, so which were all being ruled by a monarch, a dictator. Here, democracy is a new idea. The dictator is the vested interest. Correct. So dictator and his coterie, whoever, his community, etc., etc. So there, obviously the dictator himself is the epitome of power. He has all the power. That means he can do anything to safeguard his or her own interest. I mean, even we can draw a parallel to the Indian freedom struggle also. The act of British in ruthlessly suppressing freedom struggle. Okay, be it hanging Bhagat Singh, Chandrasekhar Azad, or whatever. So in all the ways they subdued and suppressed Indian freedom struggle was basically how could they do it? Because they had access to power. So thus the first primary source of power for vested interest is their access to power corridors. And next, they are financially powerful. See, any movement, any riot, for doing anything you need money, right? So thus this vested interests are extremely powerful. They are mostly aristocrats, landlords. So even I go back to the example of land reforms where they used all forums. If you can, if I recollect properly from that India After Independence by Bipan Chandra, he clearly says while describing land reforms that these zamindars or landlords used all forms of government, all forms of governance, say legislature, executive and judiciary, to scuttle land reforms. Correct. So because they had, their representatives were in legislature, so they were trying to water down the spirit of the land reforms law in the very first place. But when they could not do that, then they tried. They started greasing the palms of the local executives who were implementing the land reforms and somehow tampered the land records, and they tried to safeguard their interests. Thirdly, they approached the court on the premise that they are entitled to property under right to property, fundamental right, which was back then a fundamental right, and then they used judiciary also to pin down the government's efforts for land reforms. Correct. See, they were able to, they could go to legislature, they could manipulate the local executive, they could go to the door of judiciary only because they were financially powerful, weren't they? If not for their financial prowess, do you think they could have done all those things? No. Thus, these vested interests are financially powerful, and this financial power would give them, he acts as a source to strengthen their interests. Then, high level of awareness. See friends, what is meant by awareness? They know how to water down an idea, how to safeguard their interest. See, the knowledge of the existing governmental system, the knowledge of the checks and balances, the access to the experts, access to the media, etc., makes them fully aware. When they are highly aware, it is easier for them to safeguard their interest by pinning down a new idea. Correct. So that high level of awareness is also one of the sources. Then existential power. If not all, in most of the cases, these vested interests have a strong hold in existence. They constitute the reality. Correct. So the new idea has to topple that reality. So thus, the mere fact that they are in existence gives them a lot of power. Correct. This is what, my friends, happened during unification of India, by Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. Of course, the idea of a unified India was a new thing. Who constituted the vested interests back then? It was all these Maharajas, kings, etc. They were in existence. They were ruling that state. So the new thing had to topple them. So it is not easy. So thus, the existential factor gives them a power. That existential power, to elaborate, friends. See, let us say there is a house, one person is sitting in that house. He is in the existence, okay? Another person has to come and vacate him out. Is it easy? No, right? If the house is vacant, you can go and put anybody you want, of course, with some efforts. But if a person is already staying there, it is very difficult for you to vacate him and then do the work. So that is the idea. Then last thing is, sometimes they have the protection of law or social custom also. Of course, friends, here I want to tell you that law need not be ethical, right? There were laws favoring the British, though they were not ethical. There were laws just to advance or strengthen the vested interests of the British. So thus, they have the protection of law also. Sometimes of social custom also. Social custom says that they deserve to be in that position. So fighting that social custom is not that easy. Let's take the example of patriarchy in India. So all our scriptures, etc., make it extremely clear that the property has to be inherited by the son, and son is the one who would do all the rituals of a father, mother, or whatever. So that actually prompted so many parents to prefer a son over a daughter. That is the basic reason for patriarchal mindset in India even today. Correct. This social custom favors a vested interest, that is the vested interest of males. So thus this social custom also gives them a power to become more powerful. Now we have spoken why, what are the factors that would strengthen the vested interest, right? Now there is another factor in the essay which talks about ideas. Then what are the factors that strengthen ideas? Why do you think ideas are more powerful than vested interest? So there must be some factors, right? Yeah. So the first one is emotional strength. See, idea is a thought, right? Around that thought, so many people become emotionally connected. Once when you get emotionally connected to a thought, you are ready to go to any extent for upholding that idea. Correct? The best example, I mean, see, let's notwithstanding whether it is disruptive or constructive, an idea easily draws the emotional attachment of people around. So the best example is, let us say, the idea of freedom itself. Indian context, all the Indians got emotionally attached towards this idea of freedom. The emotion of patriotism was evoked in every individual, so that he or she would automatically get gravitated towards this idea of freedom. So thus the power of emotions is extremely high. A person, see, so many times people bring about a change only through emotions, right? Only when you are a person with rugged emotion, when you are in rage, then only you can bring about some change. Okay, so I mean, thus this power, I mean, emotion determines everything. If a person is emotionally determined, he can do anything. So thus the ideas have this power of emotions, and this power of emotions will go a long way in fighting against vested interest. Correct, friends? So though the vested interests have derived their power from physical things, ideas derive their power from non-physical, that is emotional things. Next, friends, power of conviction. See, what is this power of conviction? See, conviction is belief, right? Firm belief. So a person who absorbs an idea becomes so much firmly, believes so firmly in that idea that he can do anything for that. See, I want you to differentiate between emotional strength and power of conviction. What is meant by emotional strength? The moment you think about an idea, you get emotionally attached to it. Correct? It is not just belief, it is an emotion that you get connected. But conviction is belief. See, not directly, I just want to draw your attention to the A, B, C component of attitude in ethics, right? So the first one is affective component and the third one is cognitive component. While the emotional strength constitutes affective component, conviction constitutes a cognitive component. A person firmly believes in one idea. That firm belief would translate into action. Correct? If not for that belief, a person would not get into that action. And the third thing is public opinion, friends. See, it is easy to mobilize public opinion around an idea. Correct? So that means you germinate an idea, that idea is captured by someone, and that idea is transmitted, disseminated amongst a greater section of society. So thus everybody would start supporting that idea. So thus public opinion gets created only through ideas, only around ideas. See, without ideas, how do you, all the workers around the world united around the idea of socialism. Correct? If not for that idea, were you able to mobilize people? No, right? So, and also, friends, here we have to understand that mostly vested interests are minority. They are few in number, but because of their access to power or financial prowess, etc., they would be taking the entire majority for a ride. Correct? But in this case, this idea acts as a center point and would mobilize public opinion. Thus majority becomes more aware. Correct? Majority becomes powerful. So then the last thing is unifying factor, unifying force. Friends, if normally the society is divided into various factions. Correct? This idea would bring all of them into one platform and would motivate them. So thus it acts as a unifying force. Same example, right friends? Indian society was divided regionally. Indian society was divided on caste lines. Indian society was divided on class lines. Everything was there, right? But everybody, whether it was a Bihari, Bengali, or a Gujarati, or a Marathi, or a anybody, any Indian, though there was so much division amongst themselves, they got united to fight against something called British domination, to fight for an idea which is freedom struggle or independence. Correct? So this, what was that thing that brought this Bihari and Gujarati together? It is this idea. So this idea actually unifies people. Now friends, who may ask me, then sir, what is the difference between public opinion and unifying force? See, under public opinion, everybody would believe in that idea. Everybody would want that idea to succeed, thereby bringing pressure on the government. Correct? But under unifying force, all the differences are set aside and everybody becomes one whole for the sake of fighting against some agenda, common agenda. Now friends, we have discussed how vested interests derive power, how ideas derive power. After that, now we have to see, the topic says power of vested interest is vastly exaggerated compared to gradual encroachment of ideas. Correct? Now we have to explain as to, once we have explained about those two things, we have to now explain as to how ideas overpower vested interest. So this is basically a process of which I am trying to explain, friends. So there is a vested interest, there is a germination of new idea, how that idea would overpower. It is not factors that strengthen idea, that has already been explained. Now I am explaining the process. So here the first thing is, as I already told you, first in the previous slide, this idea provides a central theme, this idea provides an unifying force. So once this central theme is provided, there will be a lot of literature that would get produced on that central theme. Correct? Right? Marxism was an ideal that was promulgated by Karl Marx, Friedrich Engels, etc. Later, so many Marxists across the globe started writing literature on that in various regional languages. So that idea would produce so much literature about that idea, and that would get disseminated in every language to reach as many people as possible. So the second step is production of literature. Third one is spreading of ideas. So there will be leaders who would emerge to champion that idea. They would start spreading the message, or they would start spreading these ideas, and they would start garnering the support. They would start creating public opinion. They would start unifying people. Correct? Then this is executed. Once this is done, once the idea is germinated, once the literature is produced on the idea, and once the ideas are spread enough to create a backdrop, to create run up to a movement, then the idea's execution stage starts. What is that? How is that execution happening? How will that execution happen? The first thing is mostly in the form of a protest. You go and you give a petition to the government to make to support your idea and to alter laws, or to alter ways and means to supporting the idea. Once that protest fails, then there will be riots. That is what we saw, Quit India movement or even Jasmine Revolution, etc., etc. For that idea, people will go berserk. They will start targeting the symbol of government. Even then, sometimes it may get the form of coup also. This is how an idea emerges, spreads, and then gets itself executed. This is the way in which ideas gradually encroach the power of vested interests. Correct? So friends, here it is also important for you to say that, see, since this idea gradually starts spreading, gradually it gathers momentum, gradually it gathers public opinion, gradually it unites everybody, gradually it strengthens the majority, which is the victim of the suppression of vested interest, and finally this would encroach upon the power of vested interest. Then if you write these sentences, then it would convince the examiner that you have stayed closer to the topic and you have not deviated from it. Then friends, as I have already told you, once you have explained, you have supported the argument, then you have to pause a moment and then take a step backward and analyze whether the topic itself is correct or not. Friends, now we have convinced, we have explained that ideas are more powerful. But friends, then we have to pause a question to ourselves: is power of vested interest always weaker in relation to ideas? Is it always so? So, then friends, in continuation with that, we have to also say, will vested interests also tread the path of ideas to protect their interests? It's a very interesting thing, friends. See, when the whole objective of vested interest is to protect their interests, right? Then, if they are not able to protect themselves through regular means, they can only sponsor an idea, they can only give validity to that idea, they can only clandestinely create public opinion about that idea, they can only secretly get their idea or get their vested interest become the idea of masses. Okay, simple friends. This may sound a little tricky, but the fact is, friends, how was some communities, or even males for that matter, how were they able to rule over females or suppress females all across the globe? Because they started they spread that idea that male are more powerful, physiologically females are weaker. This idea of male supremacy and female weakness is the heart with which the males could have free run in the society. Correct? Even in Indian caste system, some upper caste smartly they spread the idea that they are all the sons of the divine force, they are all the messengers of the God, and so they could do miracles. So they had done great deeds in their previous birth, etc., etc., etc. So such ideas were actually spread across the people. People were made to believe in those ideas, and that's how they strengthened their vested interests. Hope I am clear, friends. So friends, now after the discussion, we have discussed about how the vested interest derive power, how the ideas become powerful, how these ideas overpower or how gradually encroach upon the vested interest. Then we have brought an element of analysis where we have argued that even vested interest can float an idea, can create an idea and spread the same idea to further their own interests. Correct? Then if that is the case, then we have argued that both ideas can be both constructive or disruptive. Disruptive ideas can also spell a death note to the entire society as a whole. Thus, for societal progress, it becomes extremely important for us to cultivate noble ideas. Correct? How do you cultivate noble ideas? It is mostly through family, it is mostly through schooling, right? Of course, you need not have to write a detailed note on this, but you have to necessarily give a passing reference. And it is important for you to give an ethical touch to your essay here, stating that an idea which is selfless, an idea which respects every section of society, an idea which distributes the outcomes of society equitably to all the sections of society, has to be accepted by the society and promoted by society. Only if that happens, then only there will be noble ideas that will bring about societal progression. So normally, how do you cultivate noble ideas? It is only through family and schooling, right? So that's what. So this has to be a passing reference, maybe 1 or 2 paragraphs, in order to just I mean, after you have done that analysis, it is important for you to say that the ideas can be disruptive, but it has to be made constructive through schooling, homeschooling, family, etc., etc. Sorry friends, and this is actually a repetition of the same slide. Friends, after the above discussion, it is time for conclusion. So then it is important for us to conclude in a positive way. How do you conclude in a positive way? From the above discussion, it is very clear that the ideas are more powerful than the vested interest, and the ideas can disrupt the status quo and then bring a new normal. Correct. But that new normal should be conducive to the society. That new normal should be equitable, should distribute equitable outcomes to every section of society, should do justice to every section of society. Only such noble ideas have to be promoted. So finally, thus noble ideas is equal to noble society. So this is how you can conclude this essay, friends. So thanks for your patient hearing. So I wish you all the best, and